You are listening to the Marketing 32 Show with your host, Brett Allen.
Hi, Brett Allen here, host of the Marketing 32 Show, where I connect with leading dentists, influencers, industry experts to bring you guys the latest and greatest on how to grow your practice. This episode, as always, is brought to you by our team here at Marketing 32. We're the only dental marketing team that I know of that is fully standing behind their services with a performance guarantee. If you're not growing, you don't pay us. We try to find those practices we can partner with that we know will have an impact with and do ethical marketing for the industries. If you need help with marketing, head over to marketing32.com, set up a little 15-minute discovery call. We'll have a great conversation, set you straight if it'll be a great fit for us. Quick shout out to Rita Zamora. Recently had her on the show to talk all about social media for your practice, how to do it right. There are different approaches to social media, and you should definitely check out that episode to see how you can get more patients with your different social media profiles. Excited to have a new guest on the show today, Dr. John Montoya. Laura Branner introduced us. Quick shout out to her. Had her on the show. You should check out that episode. But Dr. Montoya is a practicing dentist of over 25 years based in Boulder, Colorado, and the founder of Dental Purchasing Partners, a fast-growing network helping private practices compete with DSOs on cost. After decades in the operatory, he saw firsthand how independent dentists were overpaying for supplies and services and built a solution to level the playing field. Today, he's on a mission to help private practices take back control over their overhead and increase profitability without sacrificing independence. Outside the office, John is a devoted husband and father of 4. Dr. Montoya, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah. This will be a fun conversation. I think the value you provide and the connections you have in the industry to provide dentists with reduced costs, improve overhead is a great thing for their practice. So tell us more about that. Like, tell us your journey in dentistry. How did you get into dentistry? Ultimately, how did you start Dental Purchasing Partners? And let's hear that story.
Yeah. So I kind of knew at an early age that I wanted to be a dentist. Don't ask me how, but I have been talking about being a dentist for forever, since I was a little kid. As a matter of fact, I was in a school play when I think I was like 8 years old, and I don't know what the school play was about, but I was a dentist in the school play. Yeah. And so, I went to college and, dentistry was still in my mind, medicine, kind of something in the world of medicine. And so I thought, I would go to the medical track, when I got into college. I mean, I had some friends that were going into medicine, and I actually interned, at a hospital while I was in college, and all the physicians that I interned with, they just weren't excited. The insurance industry had really kind of taken the love out of medicine, right? They couldn't practice the way that they wanted to practice, and so I was working at a gym at the time. You can't tell now, but I was in shape at one point in time. And this gentleman kept coming in. He was an older gentleman. He kept coming in and he asked me about how college was going. And, I talked to him about my journey, and I thought I was going to, go into dentistry. And then I thought about medicine, and, he was like, oh, that's interesting. And, one day the conversation came up, and I was like, well, what do you do? And he's like, well, I'm a dentist. And I was like, no way. Right. And so he introduced me to, interning at his office. He said, come on down. Okay. I practice in, here in town. Why don't you come down and look over my shoulder and see what I do? And so I did. I went to his office and I interned there one day a week, and he loved what he did. His staff loved what he did. He just, his patients loved him. He was just happy. And then after that, he introduced me to his orthodontic friend. And so I would intern at the general practice, and then I would intern at his orthodontist friend's office. And then they introduced me to his endodontist friend. And then after that, the oral surgeon. And so 4 days a week when I was in college, I would do a different office every day. And I just fell more and more in love with dentistry. And it solidified my journey into dentistry after that. And so obviously I applied to dental school, got in, went to Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, graduated. I went back to California. I practiced there for 7 years, and then I moved to Colorado after wanting to raise a family outside of California. No offense to anybody in California, but just wasn't the right place for us at the time. And so I've been here ever since. I've owned multiple practices over my career, and now I'm scaled back down to one and building DPP for doctors. So
That's
that's my
cool.
journey in a nutshell.
That's cool. Everybody's got a unique story. That's why I always love to hear those background stories of how people got into dentistry or connected to the industry. That's cool. So what created what's the impetus or start for Dental Purchasing Partners? How did that idea come to life? And tell us that story and what you guys are doing there.
So, it started when I started adding practices to my portfolio. So every time I would add a practice to my practice portfolio, my deals with my vendors got better. Reason being economy of scale, right? I would approach them and say, well, why am I paying different pricing now than what I was before when I had X amount of practices? They said, oh, well, you're going to order more. So, the more you order, the better the pricing gets. I mean, it's like the Costco model, right? I mean, the more people that go through Costco, the better that Costco can say like, hey, we can sell Coke instead of at, $5 a 6-pack. We're going to sell it for $3 because so many more people are going to buy this Coca-Cola, right?
Right.
And so I thought I was going to go down the journey of building this, army of practices and then, sell the bundle of practices and exit dentistry on a great white horse, right? So long story short, I decided to change my business plan. I ended up selling off practices one by one. I sold my last practice December 19th, 2019, right before COVID.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, perfect timing, right? I feel bad for the doctor that bought right before COVID, but as I scaled down, my discounts, started to dwindle, and I thought, well, this is insane. Why is a private practice paying the most out of anybody in dentistry? These DSOs are thriving because they have the economy of scale because, 5, 10, 50, 100, 1,000 practices are getting better deals than the single guy. I mean, you may get a 5% discount on some things and you think you're doing great, but these other places are getting 10 to 60% discounts on stuff that the same stuff you're buying.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I want my one location to get the same opportunities that these multi-locations are getting. So, I approached my vendors. I said, what do I need to do in order to get those discounts back? They told me. I put the formulary together and I started building out Dental Purchasing Partners. And that's really where it became. Selfishly, I wanted to help myself and several friends of mine. And then it started to grow and really become a business of where, I want to help doctors that want to stay independent, but still get the same pricing that these bigger corps are getting.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? You have this pain you're trying to solve for yourself and it blossoms into some kind of business. I love the show Shark Tank. You ever watch that show?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a fun show. I just love seeing people's journey into entrepreneurship and how they've come up with their ideas and how they grow them and get money to invest and grow it. And seems like that's the case, right? We have this pain or we have this problem and we solve it and we realize other people have the same pain problem. Well, let's turn this into a business then. So,
well, I mean, and the hard part for me is throughout my career when I only had a single practice, like I didn't know any different, right? But then I saw the other side, right? I saw the other side of things,
benefits,
of having the benefits of having more than one location, and then that being ripped back away and being back to where I was, for the first, 16 years of my career of paying these prices, not knowing any better. And that's the hard part, is that doctors don't realize that there are other options out there available to them. but they're not showcased. And the margin that some of this stuff is marked to is astronomically
Yeah.
high, and so when you're, and nothing against sales reps. Sales reps are great, wonderful people, but when they say, hey, listen, we've got this widget and it's $100. Oh, we'll knock 10% off of that. And you're like, wow, 10%, this is great. I just got the bargain of the century, when, an office, a DSO office down the street is paying 60% less, 40% less,
Yeah. That's great.
um,
Yeah.
and the company's still making money at that point. The company is still making money selling that widget.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
I can go on my soapbox
Well,
forever. I'm sorry.
that's awesome. We were talking offhand before the show about how many doctors don't know that this is an option, that there's an opportunity to bundle, or not bundle, but get a part of a group and have these savings. So this is great that you've created this for the industry. I think, we hear about DSOs and how they've got so much money behind them, and how they're changing and affecting the industry, and these group practices that are, for good or bad, affecting the industry. And so if you can level the playing field with you know access to group rates, I think that's great.
Yeah, and stay independent. I mean, you don't have to sell a portion or all of your practice and be part of an organization that's telling you now what to do.
Right.
I mean, you can stay independent but still get the benefits as if you were in a huge group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So tell us about some of the impact you've had in the industry with these clients that you have in the group. Um, what's kind of some impact on their overhead, their profitability? What are you seeing on average when people become a part of DPP?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how much they use the platform, right? I mean, we have over 80 plus vendors that give our members discounts. So, our suggestion is to always go through and, take a look at what you're using and price compare, right? On average, anywhere from 10 to 60% in savings. It depends on how aggressive you want to get. After, COVID hit the industry forever, and staff costs are going up, supply costs are going up, and doctors really haven't made the shift to change. They're just kind of paying as these things go up. So, a lot of offices, even a 5% change in their overhead drops so much profit down to the bottom line, and then thinking long term, right? So eventually we're all going to have to retire someday, right?
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times those practice brokers have to deliver, some news at someone's, later on in their career. And they're saying, well, you're great. This is awesome that you're producing a million to 1.8 million, but your overhead's 80%, right? Like if I sold your practice today, you're not going to get as much value as the guy down the street doing a million, and he's got 60% overhead, right? So if the practice can really look at what they're spending, it's not what you're producing. You can produce all you want, right? It's how much you spend is really what matters. And so if you're not spending as much as the guy down the street, you're going to get more value for your practice when you decide to retire than the guy that has no control over what his costs are. And so we can reduce costs. We can reduce costs a lot. I mean, when I made a couple simple changes in my office, I reduced my overhead by 20%. I mean, It went down just like that.
That immediately hits the bottom line. So that's
and that
great.
immediately hits the bottom line. And that 20%, I mean, you can hire staff. You can give them raises, you can give them, 401k that you may not be providing, or benefits that they have been asking for. Man, you want that new widget in your office, you want that new CBCT, pay cash, right?
Yeah.
But don't pay retail. That's ridiculous. But you do now have the money to do these other things, or put it down to your bottom line. Give yourself a raise, right?
Yeah.
Retire early if you wanted to. There's so much you can do if you're not worrying about paying the bills every month.
Yeah.
If you're running a very profitable lean and mean machine, and that's what these DSOs are doing. They're
Mm.
buying they're buying these practices that are producing a lot, but
And then they
their
strip out the
overhead.
cost even more because
Yeah,
they're part of a group now.
they strip out the cost. They're like, okay, well, they're paying this for supplies, they're paying this for credit card processing, they're paying this for,
Yeah.
payroll, and they're just going, they're getting the same service, but they're going cut, 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 and they're taking their overhead down, and they're making their investors super happy,
Yeah.
because the profit was there all along. It was just hidden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why the DSOs are having such an impact and private equity is having such an impact is because of all of these things that come with economies of scale. And there's definitely good from a managerial administrative standpoint that's like, hey, this is really good. But there's also bad things that are happening in the industry from DSOs. And it's like, how do we manage that? How is that impacting private practice?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of the scams and taking advantage of some of these deals when they're buying practices, that's obviously where it gets gray, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you never want to hear those stories. You
Yeah.
never want to hear those stories. And unfortunately, I mean, we go to school to be a dentist, right? I mean, for
Hmm.
4 years, I mean, that's what our whole focus is on. And I really wish that dental schools provided you something like an MBA or something like that, because
Kind of business component.
yeah, because a portion of the dentists, I mean, some are going to go work in public health, some are going to go work, for, go into the military or service, some are going to work as an associate for the rest of their career. But the lion's share of dentists come out and they open up a
They
small
want to open a
business.
practice. Yeah.
We have, and most of them have no idea how to run a
Yeah.
business. I mean, I don't want to be, it's true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
dentistry is a type of business where we're successful despite ourselves because of that overhead. I mean, you could have, like I said, you could run a successful $1 million practice, have an 80% overhead, you're still taking home a paycheck, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you could have that same practice and have a 60% overhead, you're taking home a much bigger paycheck.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of doctors don't know how to get there, right? They don't know how to
Hmm.
get from 80 to 60, right?
Yeah.
And that's all business practices, and looking at your systems and tracking what you're spending, and
Hmm.
those sort of things. So um
As part
it-
of DPP, do you have coaching or advice on all of this stuff, or is it just purely access to vendors with a discount?
yeah, we have some coaches and stuff available for our members. Obviously, it's something that they're gonna hire them to do, but I think that it's a key component to have a coach on your side, and it doesn't have to be forever,
Hmm.
um, but if you haven't had a practice consultant come in and really do some evaluations, I think it's a super important component to practicing dentistry. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we certainly with our team, we have an approach that helps bring in new patients and help with the front end of things. But we see all kinds of different practices in their teams and management styles and um, missing pieces on the back end, right? Of
Yeah.
like, well, how can we improve case acceptance? How can we improve the booking rate at the front desk? How do we improve marketing to existing patients and get them back into the chair?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, look at just anybody that's really excelled in their career. I mean, let's look at athletes, for example. I
Hmm.
mean, Michael Jordan had a coach, right? Tiger
Yeah.
Woods needs a driving coach, but no, I mean, he has a coach. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot
they
of
all
these
do.
great
They
players
all
that
do.
have excelled in their profession, they're at the top of their game, but they have a coach, right?
Hmm.
And so, um, I think it's important for dentists to have a coach. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been a fun conversation. We're about out of time. I did want to say something that we are a part of Dental Purchasing Partners. So Marketing 32 has some offers there for the group. So you should definitely join to check those out.
Yeah.
We have ways that we help practices with websites, photo video shoots, getting new patients, marketing to existing patients. So just a little shameless plug there. But
Yeah, great partner. You guys are a great partner, and we're happy to have you. Yeah.
great. Well, I always close with a gold nugget. So what's that one piece of advice, that one tip that could have an epiphany for our listeners, a ripple effect, if you will, into their life or their practice? What is that for you?
I would say sit down. Hopefully you have a good accountant, and sit down and look at industry average figures, right? Where is your practice and where should it be? And then, what simple changes you can make to, kind of help yourself grow. You don't have to do one more dime in dentistry to be more profitable. You could do the same amount of dentistry now, tomorrow, and beyond, and still be profitable if you just, make a few key changes. And so if you haven't done that ever or in a while, I would suggest just sitting down and looking at your numbers and saying, what's out of line and how do I change it? And if you don't know those numbers, and if somebody's not on your side going over that with you, then maybe that's not the right person in your corner, right? And that it might be time to make a change, because you need people around you and behind you that's supporting you, and not just watching you go along day by day, and I mean, that kind of gets back to the coach thing, but you also need those other players that are on your side. And most of those players are your financial advisor, so you can plan for the future and retire. And then your accountant, to make sure that, you're doing everything you can legally from a tax standpoint, and, from a business standpoint, where you should be in line with a lot of the other successful practices out there. So take some time, sit down, look at your numbers, and understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's great advice. And sometimes these experts that we consult with and the people we've hired, the CPAs, sometimes they're not aware of new things, or they're not aware of what it really takes for marketing. I know sometimes we get CPAs that are like, whoa, you're spending that much on marketing. Well, if we can translate that and connect that to production for the practice, that may be above parameter from what they see from other practices. But if it's healthy for the practice and it's actually helping grow, then there's definitely good advice out there that and benchmarks that you should compare yourself to. But just be aware that sometimes people have, the same old ways of doing things, and it might hold you back from things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Dr. Montoya, great to have you on the show. Appreciate the wisdom, insight. Everybody's got to go check out Dental Purchasing Partners. Where do we send them? Should we just plug your website, or if they want to connect with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, the easiest way is go to dentalpurchasingpartners.com. They can kind of scroll through. They can see the list of the vendors that are available. There's a scheduling link. You can get a 30-minute call with me. I can talk over what you're looking for, or what your practice is. If you're a startup and looking to save some money, my email's on there. My phone number's on there. So just go to dentalpurchasingpartners.com. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Awesome. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on today, Dr. Montoya. Great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate your time.
All right, everybody. Until next time on the Marketing 32 Show, have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and take care.